All right, welcome to another deep dive. This time we're going to be taking a look at baby brains.
Oh, yeah.
You guys have sent in some really fascinating research.
Yeah.
And we're going to kind of unpack it all with you today.
Absolutely.
So to start off, we have this really cool piece from Knowable magazine called Zooming In on the Brains of Babies.
I like that title.
Yeah, super catchy.
It is very descriptive.
So by the end of this deep dive, you're going to have like a whole new appreciation for just how amazing these tiny little brains are.
It really is remarkable. The more we learn about it,
Yeah.
the more we realize how much more there is to uncover.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Like the article jumps right in
Yeah.
and talks about this like incredible transformation
Right.
that happens in just the first 9 months.
Wow.
You go from this like cluster of stem cells
Right.
to this like crazy intricate network of billions of neurons.
Billions and trillions of connections.
It's insane.
It's mind-boggling to think about how fast and how much development happens in such a short amount of time.
Like it's basically like starting with a blank canvas
Yes.
and ending up with like the Mona Lisa in under a year.
Yeah, that's a great analogy.
So I'm curious though, does this like rapid development mean that like if something goes wrong early on, do that have bigger consequences?
That's a great question.
Yeah.
And the research seems to suggest that yes,
Okay.
those early stages are critical.
Okay.
Think of it like laying the foundation for a skyscraper.
Oh, okay.
You need that base to be really solid to support everything you're going to build on top of it.
Gotcha.
And in the brain, those early connections, they kind of form the basis for future learning behavior, even emotional regulation.
Wow. So we're not just talking like cognitive development,
No.
but like the whole spectrum of a child's future.
Exactly. Their whole potential, really.
Wow.
That's why understanding this period of development is so crucial, you know. It has implications for everything.
Yeah.
From education to healthcare to social policy.
Yeah. It's pretty amazing how much we can like actually observe this stuff in action now
Yeah.
with like neuroimaging techniques like fMRI.
Exactly. Yeah.
But I imagine it's not easy to like scan a baby's brain.
Oh, you're right.
Right.
It's definitely not a simple task.
Yeah.
Amniotic fluid, constant movement.
Yeah.
It's really tough to get a clear image.
Yeah.
And then ethically, there's even more things to think about, especially with fetuses.
Right.
You know, weighing the benefits of the research against the risks.
Yeah, it's a delicate balance for sure.
It is, absolutely.
But the article did mention new software
Okay.
that's helping researchers kind of overcome some of these hurdles.
Yes.
Is that kind of what's leading to these breakthroughs
Absolutely.
in understanding like preterm babies?
Yeah, so these advancements in the software,
Okay.
along with the expertise of some of these researchers like Damien Fair, are allowing us to analyze these images in so much detail, like more than we've ever been able to before.
Wow.
And it's giving us these amazing insights into how those preterm babies develop.
Okay, so the article highlights this study by Mariah Thomason,
Right.
who found like weaker neural communication in preterm babies,
Right.
even before they were born,
Yes.
which like kind of changes our thinking a little bit, right?
Yes, it challenges that idea that it's the premature birth itself that's causing all the issues.
Right.
Like her team actually found that the preterm babies had less synchronized activity between different brain regions
Okay.
while they were still in utero.
Wow.
So it's possible that the challenges these babies are facing stem from like disrupted development during the pregnancy.
Oh, wow.
Not just from being born early.
So the environment inside the womb
Yes.
really plays a huge role,
It does.
even before the baby's born.
Absolutely.
Wow.
And researchers are still working on the long-term implications. Wait, you know, some evidence suggests that weaker neural communication early on could be linked to cognitive and emotional difficulties later.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's really fascinating.
It is.
But it also raises all these questions about how we can support those infants.
Yeah, for sure. For sure.
Yeah.
It makes you wonder, like, what other factors during pregnancy might be influencing, like, brain development.
There's a lot of research going on in that area right now.
Oh, cool.
Like there's studies looking at the impact of inflammation during pregnancy, which seems to be connected to an increased risk of autism.
Wow.
Another thing they're looking at is maternal stress and anxiety.
I mean, it seems intuitive that a mother's emotional state could impact the baby.
Right.
But I had no idea that there was like science behind that.
There is.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah. Claudia Lugo-Candela, she's a clinical psychologist. She's done a lot of research on this.
Okay.
And her findings suggest that really high levels of stress and anxiety in the mother can actually change how certain brain regions develop.
So are we saying that, like, stress during pregnancy could maybe predispose a child to, like, mental health issues later on?
That's what the research seems to suggest, but it's not a simple cause and effect. Like, there's a lot of factors.
Gotcha.
Genetics, environment, individual experiences.
It's complicated.
Yeah, it's really complex.
Okay, so this is where that idea of functional fingerprints comes in.
Yes.
Which the article talks about.
Right.
Can you explain what those are and how they fit into all of this?
This is where the research gets really exciting.
Okay.
Damien Fair and his team, they've been doing some groundbreaking work.
Right.
They found that babies as young as 8 months old have unique brain connectivity patterns.
What?
Yeah, think of it like a neural fingerprint.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and these patterns can actually predict a baby's age.
Really?
Yeah.
That's crazy.
With surprising accuracy.
So each baby's brain is like its own unique signature.
In a way, yes.
From like a really young age.
Yeah. Yeah, very early on.
What determines those patterns, though?
That's the million-dollar question.
Yeah.
We're still trying to figure out all the factors.
Right.
But it looks like genetics plays a role.
Okay.
You know, these patterns seem to run in families,
Oh.
suggesting that some of our brain wiring might be predetermined. But it's not all nature.
Right.
Our experiences and the environment also shape how those circuits develop and function.
So it's like both.
Yeah.
It's both predetermined and malleable.
It's this kind of interplay.
That's so cool.
It is.
That must have big implications for how we think about early childhood development.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Understanding those individual differences is huge. Like, imagine being able to tailor educational approaches to a child's unique brain wiring.
Wow. That's amazing.
Or even being able to identify early signs of developmental issues and then intervene earlier.
It's incredible. Like, we're on the verge of this revolution.
Yeah.
And how we understand and support, like, young minds.
I think so.
But before we go too far,
Yeah.
I want to go back to the ethics for a second.
Okay.
Like, with these powerful tools, how do we make sure this knowledge is used responsibly?
That's a crucial point, and one we can't ignore.
Right.
The potential of this research is huge,
Yeah.
but we have to use it ethically.
For sure.
We need to be mindful of things like privacy, consent, and the potential for this information to be misused.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, it's a big responsibility.
It is.
It's a conversation that needs to happen alongside these scientific advances.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
We can't just focus on the what, but also the how.
Exactly.
When it comes to using these tools. It's like we're explorers venturing into this, like, uncharted territory.
Yeah.
We have to be cautious and aware.
Absolutely.
Right.
Yeah, I think so.
Speaking of which, the article gets into some specific areas
Okay.
that researchers are looking at, like the impact of prenatal exposure to things like maternal COVID-19 infection or cannabis use.
It's really cutting-edge research.
It is.
I mean, think about it.
Yeah.
We can track how these exposures during pregnancy can actually change those developing neural circuits.
Yeah, that's wild.
It is fascinating, but it's also a bit daunting, don't you think?
Daunting in the sense that it opens up this whole new world of factors that we have to consider.
Precisely.
Yeah.
It really highlights just how complex this all is.
Yeah.
It's not about one single thing.
Right.
It's like this interplay of genes, environment, experiences.
It's like a giant knot.
It is.
Where each strand is like a different piece of the puzzle.
Exactly.
And as we untangle them, we gain a deeper understanding of not just the vulnerabilities, but the resilience of the developing brain.
That's a key point.
Yeah.
The brain isn't static. It's constantly adapting, evolving. Yeah. Especially in those early years.
Which brings us to, like, interventions.
Yes.
Like, if we know that certain experiences can impact brain development, can we use that knowledge to create interventions that promote healthy development?
That's the exciting frontier, I think.
Yeah.
Like, imagine being able to tailor interventions to a child's unique needs.
Wow.
Based on their own brain patterns. Personalized medicine, but for the brain.
That's so cool.
It is.
Are we talking about preventing developmental issues altogether?
Well, I wouldn't say prevent in the, like, absolute sense.
Okay.
But maybe mitigating the risks and maximizing their potential, yes.
Okay.
And there are things we can do right now to support healthy brain development.
Like what?
The article mentions things like paid maternal leave.
Oh, okay.
It's a simple concept.
Yeah.
But it has huge implications.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
When you think about the impact of stress on both the mom and the baby.
Right.
Reducing stress, creating a stable and nurturing environment.
Yeah.
Those seem intuitive. But knowing the science behind it makes it even more important.
Absolutely. It goes back to that web,
Right.
Supporting families, supportive environments. Those things have a ripple effect.
Yeah.
On brain development, a child's potential, and eventually on society as a whole.
Wow. It's all connected.
It is. It really is.
This has been such an eye-opening conversation.
Yeah.
It's amazing to see how this research is not just like advancing science.
Right.
But also making us think differently about how we approach childhood.
I'm glad you're seeing that connection.
Yeah.
This research isn't just about baby brains.
Right.
It's about understanding what makes us human.
Yeah, for sure.
Those foundational experiences that shape who we are.
And as we learn more,
it
challenges us to create a world that really supports those early years and recognizes how important they are for lifelong well-being.
I agree.
This deep dive has given us so much to think about.
It has.
Before we wrap up, is there like one final thought you want to leave our listener with? Something to ponder as they continue to explore this stuff?
Well, if we know that these early experiences have such a big impact on the developing brain, what does that mean for our education systems, our social policies?
Yeah.
Even our parenting choices.
Wow.
That's a question we should all be thinking about.
It is?
Both individually and as a society.
That's a great point.
Yeah, it's a big one.
It is.
It is. Yeah, it's a conversation we need to have right alongside the science.
Right.
Like, we can't just focus on the what, but the how, too.
For sure. It's like we're explorers going into this uncharted territory.
Exactly.
Got to be super careful.
Yeah, you got to be really mindful.
Speaking of which, the article dives into some pretty specific areas.
Oh, okay.
Like the impact of prenatal exposure to things like maternal COVID-19 infection or even cannabis use.
Wow, that's cutting edge.
Isn't that wild?
It is.
They can track how these exposures during pregnancy might actually change those developing neural circuits.
I mean, think about it. We can see how exposure during pregnancy might actually change how the brain develops.
It's pretty incredible.
It is fascinating, but it's also a little bit daunting, wouldn't you say?
Daunting, yeah. Like it opens up this whole new world of factors that we need to be thinking about.
It really highlights how complex it is.
Right.
It's not just one thing.
Right.
It's this complicated mix of genes, environment, and experiences.
It's like a tangled knot.
It is, yeah, like a big knot.
With each strand being a different piece of the puzzle.
Exactly.
And as we untangle each of those strands, we can get a better understanding of not just like the vulnerabilities, but the incredible resilience.
Yeah, that's key.
Of the developing brain.
That's a really important point.
Right.
The brain's not static.
Yeah.
It's constantly adapting and evolving.
It's amazing.
Especially in those first few years.
Yeah, which brings us to like... interventions.
Yes, interventions.
If we know that these certain experiences can impact brain development, can we use that same knowledge to create interventions that promote healthy development?
That's the big question. I think that's the exciting frontier.
Yeah.
Like, imagine being able to design interventions for each child to meet their specific needs.
Based on their own brain patterns.
Based on their brain patterns, exactly.
Like a personalized medicine, but for the brain.
Exactly. So
are we talking about like preventing developmental issues altogether?
I don't know if I'd say prevent.
Okay.
In like a surefire way.
Okay.
But we might be able to lower the risks.
Okay.
And help every child reach their full potential. Yeah.
That's amazing.
And even today, there are things we can do.
Oh, like what?
That can help with healthy brain development.
Okay.
The article even mentioned paid maternity leave.
Oh, right.
It's a simple thing, but it can make a huge difference.
Yeah, it makes sense when you think about the stress.
Exactly.
It takes off both mom and the baby.
It can be really stressful on both.
Yeah, so like reducing stress.
Yeah.
Creating a stable and nurturing environment.
Right.
Those things seem intuitive.
They do.
But then like knowing that there's science behind them
having the data
makes them even more important.
Yeah, it really validates those ideas.
It goes back to that interconnected web we were talking about.
Exactly.
Like supporting families, supportive environments.
It all makes a difference.
Yeah.
It affects brain development. It affects the child's potential.
Wow.
And ultimately, it affects society as a whole.
Wow. It's really all connected.
It is. It really is.
This has been such an eye-opening conversation.
Oh, I'm glad.
It's amazing to see how this research isn't just like, advancing scientific understanding.
Right.
But it's also making us think differently about childhood.
I'm glad to hear you say that.
Yeah.
Because I think this research isn't just about baby brains.
Yeah.
It's about understanding humans.
That's the most fundamental level.
Yeah, those really important experiences that shape who we are.
And as we keep learning, it challenges us to build a world that really supports those early years.
I agree.
And recognizes how important they are for lifelong well-being.
Absolutely.
Wow, this deep dive has given us so much to think about.
It really has.
Before we wrap up,
okay,
is there one final thought you want to leave our listener with? Something to ponder as they kind of keep exploring this.
Well, if we know that these early experiences are so important for brain development, what does that mean for our schools, our social programs, how we raise our kids?
Wow.
It's a question we all need to consider.
Yeah, I love that.
Both personally and as a society.
Yeah, it's like a call to action almost.
It is. We can't just be amazed by the science. We have to use it to make things better.
Exactly.
This knowledge could totally change how we think about childhood.
Yeah.
And not just in those first few years.
You mentioned education.
Yeah.
I'm picturing a world where we can understand each child's brain, like their own neural fingerprint.
Right.
And then, use that to shape their education.
It's definitely possible.
Wow.
We're already moving towards personalized learning.
Right.
But imagine taking that even further.
Yeah.
Using what we're learning from brain imaging.
That's amazing.
It could completely change how we teach and learn.
And it's not just about academics either, right?
No, not at all.
This could help us with developmental challenges too.
Exactly. Early intervention is so important.
Yeah.
But imagine if we could go beyond just treating the symptoms and actually understand what's happening in the brain.
Wow.
It opens up so many possibilities.
Like targeted therapies and support.
Exactly. More personalized and effective.
It's like we're moving away from this one-size-fits-all approach.
I think sure, yeah.
To something that's truly individualized for each kid.
Recognizing each child's unique needs and potential.
But wouldn't that take a lot of resources?
It would, yeah.
And a big shift in how we think about things.
It would be a huge undertaking.
Yeah.
But I think it's worth it.
Okay.
The potential benefits are just too big to ignore.
Like what kind of benefits?
Well, think about the long-term cost savings. If we can address those developmental issues early on.
Right, okay.
And more importantly, the positive impact on people's lives.
Yeah.
On families, on society.
It's about investing in the future.
Absolutely.
Not just for the kids themselves,
right,
but for all of us.
For humanity, really.
If we can create a world that supports healthy brain development, we're creating a world that's more resilient, more creative, more...
With more potential.
Yeah.
Exactly. And it all comes back to that amazing plasticity of the brain.
Right.
Even when things are tough,
yeah,
the brain can still grow and adapt.
That's so hopeful.
It is.
It means that even if those early experiences aren't perfect, there's still so much we can do to help kids thrive.
Absolutely. And that's what's so powerful about this research.
Yeah.
It's not just about understanding the brain.
Right.
It's about giving us the tools to make a better future for all children.
This deep dive has been amazing.
It has.
It feels like we've just scratched the surface, though.
It's a huge field.
But we've learned so much.
We have.
About how important those early years are and the potential that every child has.
I'm glad you enjoyed it.
I did. Thank you so much for sharing your expertise with us.
Of course. My pleasure.
And to our listener, thanks for joining us on this journey into the world of baby brains.
Yeah. Thanks for listening.
It's a world full of wonder and complexity.
It really is.
But also a lot of hope.
So much potential.
And as we've learned,
we
all have a part to play in shaping that world.
Absolutely.
So until next time.
Yes.
Keep those minds engaged and stay curious.